All right, everybody, welcome to Florida Dreaming. Just kidding, Surge is dreaming. But this will be dreaming about Florida. We're going to start a game that's going to reflect something similar to Florida. I've downloaded a custom map called Vice Shores. It's technically in the Northern Hemisphere, but similar to Florida, right? But the climate is 8 to 40 degrees Celsius. Not a huge fan of Celsius. My parents would know. I don't. But it sounds warm to me. It looks warm, looks amazing, looks tropical. I'm gonna have to throw some pine trees in there and some palm trees. I meant to say palm trees, but anyway. This map has outside connections, highway, buses, rail, whatever. I mean rail, sorry, not buses, boats, ships, airplanes. Could sell electricity, buy electricity, water, sewage, all that. We've also got some good natural resources, fish, etc. So we are good to go. That's a good map. I am not unlocking anything. We always like a little bit of a challenge, and actually in the last update versus like the other ones, right, you would start with like $70,000. Right now we're starting with $1,000,000, which I think is more than enough to get a city going. Since we are dreaming of Florida, we're going to call it Florida Dreaming, and we're going to roll the dice. Let's go. Basically what I wanted to get to, guys, I love Florida. Let's just close all those. I absolutely love Florida. Family vacations in Florida, Anna Maria, Indian Shores, Longboat Key, all of those places are they're just so amazing. Like, I would move there in a heartbeat if it was not anything going on in life between work, family, all that stuff, right? Always feels that way. So what better way to live through that, you know, by building something that looks Florida-like. I'm going to try a slightly different approach with this game. We'll see how long it lasts until maybe I get bored or something, but I almost wanted to start off the game in a way of like, hey, how would this happen in the real world? How would this happen in the real life? You know, this is a gorgeous map, but as you can tell, it is an island, right? Like, it's a bunch of islands. You don't have a direct connection to, let's say, a imaginary continent. This is like in the middle of nowhere, technically, right? So we're looking around, there's nobody. So you could pretend this is Hawaii, you could pretend whatever, but in my opinion, since I was thinking about Florida, this kind of reminds me of Florida. You've got kind of Anna Maria on one end, then you got your other little islands on the way, Longboat Key, a few others, kind of turn back in, go to Sarasota area. Obviously this is not close to it, but anyways, that's what I can imagine. We do have an area unlocked over here already, which I do like, so we can kind of start here, and I'm gonna almost imagine this as like in a story form, right? So let's say this is the early days of American history, more or less. Obviously we're not talking Paul Revere here, but let's say we're in the 90s or 70s, whatever, and we're just exploring this new nature land. The government had some highways built just for the fact of you know, let's call it military purposes. Maybe there's an old base somewhere or something like that we may just kind of add somewhere, maybe over there or something, just to kind of mess with things. But the other thing I want to do is you know, start slow. So essentially, what would people do if they moved here today, right? They're out there exploring. They're probably going to start with some small homes where they could reach it. This highway just technically takes you back to this main island. So we would need some kind of port, dock, a few other areas to bring the materials in and kind of start that whole process of being able to build out here and even make it feasible, right? Okay, I backed out of the game and went and downloaded a couple of mods. So essentially what I wanted to do was add some kind of abandoned ruins. I downloaded slabs. So I want to be able to do something like this. It doesn't cost us any money, looks like, so we can add something. So we can add some kind of government looking stuff to the game, essentially. some props just to kind of build on that backstory, you know, of what was over here. I mean, that's a tiny little piece of trash there. Wow. But, you know, some kind of crumbling ruins and abandoned, you know, abandoned military stuff. So I've got some stuff out there. Look at that. These look like some pretty cool props. So they were designed for a older version, but they appear to work. Even downloaded a helicopter version, so I'm going to be dropping one of those later. So that's pretty sick, and we can do this while the so we don't start getting just yet. And then there should also be hangers. So that was a hanger. So there's some of those. Where is my hanger? I will find it, guys. I will find it. I promise. So we will find it. But first, we're going to start with building some of the government stuff out and creating that as the backdrop of our story. Old abandoned military base in one of these open areas. We'll do it that way. Awesome. We got somewhere to start from. So we're going to be a little counterintuitive, as opposed to what City Skylines wants you to do is like maximize growth and start big and work your way through it, right? Judging by how the game was initially made, where there was not much customization and other things you can do. Anyway, what we're going to do is kind of build small, again, kind of working from that thought process of, hey, these people are just moving here, so there's really not much infrastructure. There's not much of a city here, you know? What I'm gonna do is more or less start with dirt roads coming off of these areas here, and we'll pretend like, hey, there's just this snaking dirt road that kind of follows or meanders around the beach. If you ever look at like the coast of where I've been anyway, in Corolla Beach, North Carolina, it kind of delves off and you need 4x4 to get over there, right? And they still build the houses and everything over there. And they just kind of flatten the roads, add gravel and coral and whatever, and make it work. But that's what we're gonna do. So I'm just gonna look at it real quick and figure out what the best approach is. So what's really interesting, actually, as you build a military base, it does need all the same things that a normal city would need. You essentially have all your basic services that are required. You have you know, a good number of things that are needed, like barracks, water, you know, all that stuff that any other city would need, essentially. So we're going to take the path of least resistance up here. Not what I wanted to do. And we're going to start building out essentially, when they got here, this was a strategic point on the map that they wanted to get to in order to cover this island from, you know, some kind of Pacific attack from that direction. So essentially there's going to be a little bit of a port, but they drove here, and there's a airstrip, a few other things that was needed in order to get this island operational. So they didn't want to destroy or spend too much time building a ridiculous amount of support and like destruction of trees and everglades. So essentially they're cutting through the shortest paths in the forest in order there you go. I don't know why that first one disappeared. That was kind of weird, but hey, there you go. Now that's looking like something, right? What I'm going to do next is place a little bit of these kind of dirt paths almost. I guess they got rid of some stuff there. That looks fine. Now let's do it from right here. And we're going to bring it over this way. So as you come in, head down the dirt path. You're greeted by this Black Hawk helicopter, some leftover ruins and rubble. Essentially, leftover military installations that simply are relics of the past. And we're going to go ahead and add that. Repeat, rinse and repeat for these areas. Something similar anyway. Maybe not all the same, but something along those lines. Ooh, I like the red ones. So kind of make it look like they were storing some gas cans over here. That's pretty sick. Okay, I like that. This one I'm gonna have just a road without any... Well... Yeah, let's put a... Hopefully it doesn't erase anything. Nice. That's kind of cool. Awesome. Hey, we're supposed to curve. Nobody wants straight roads? Come on. What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Man, that's... These props are tiny or these roads are huge? I'm confused, man. We'll bring the path to it later. So that road kind of dives off into here. And then we'll just use that surface tool again. There you go. That looks kind of cool. Alright, let's give this one a little something. Some of the installations that are closer together didn't require as much support. We're going to go ahead and drop a few things. This one's going to have a huge spool where they were running some wires to the next station. Trying to add command outposts. Oh, you know what we need out here? This is where the stuff would come in handy. Oh, this is what I was looking for. Exactly. Oh man, come on. You gonna do me like that? Also, don't be random. I'm gonna do this until I get the right color. I gotta figure out how to choose my color. Well, props are cool. Okay. So there's that. Let's go ahead and do our surface tool. By the way, guys, this is my first time ever, like, going above and beyond designing stuff or, like, putting things in places and surface tooling things. I just saw a couple of YouTube videos with some others and I was like, hey, that looks kind of cool. That looks kind of fun. So we're gonna go ahead and try that. We're gonna go ahead and try that. Ooh, that's kind of cool. Alright, so instead of a radio tower, we got a SAM missile battery. Whew, Patriot missiles. That's kind of neat. I like it. Then we're going to have some military trucks out here. Sorry about my mouse, kind of jumpy. Back to surfaces. Give it a little parking pad. And we're gonna do we ain't that fancy, come on boys. Oh my gosh, they had this the whole time and I'm over there struggling. Attaching it piece by piece. Alright. Let's start working on this. I need some props. More from the helicopters than anything else, I'm thinking. I want to put a hangar and a few other things in here. I'm going to drop some of these. I'm getting some major ghosting for some reason. What's interesting, if I move it with a keystroke, there's no ghosting. If I move it with the mouse, there's ghosting. Whack-a-doodle. People are sleeping here. We don't want anyone coming this way. We're just gonna put a few haphazard type things, and then food lines need their own. Oh my gosh. Where's the undo button? That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Unintended consequences. The right personnel are allowed, and it's where they have storage materials. So just to allow people to get in and out, but we're gonna add our little guard shack where people get checked in. This one's for human foot traffic. It's definitely don't look guard shack like, but it's gonna have to do. It's gonna have to do. Yeah, we're gonna just place some props to make it look all official. Authorized personnel only. I wonder if they have like a signage. Since it's abandoned, we don't want to have everything looking pretty and stored properly, so we're going to turn a few of these Some of these are not allowed to be touched. And then we're gonna add, that one looks really cool. We'll use that somewhere else later. I saw something in here was a container. So that's some more boxes. Could do a spool or two. And we can also add a different set of bins, and gas makes sense. They'll be welding and doing a few other things throughout the base. Maybe an abandoned car kind of makes sense. Maybe they were testing it. Maybe they were doing something with it, burning it, running different scenarios where they had to burn it. Okay, where's our container? Oh yeah, here we go. Of course, it's a military base. There has to be containers. I don't like how they're all different colors, honestly. That's killing me. Killing me, Smalls. I'll do that, that's fine. Just gonna remove these real quick. Oh my gosh, I just deleted my surface. Where's the freaking undo button when you want one? Come on. Alright, let's put our surface back. Oh, brother. I'm gonna run it right under the road. Doesn't show up there anyway, so we'll be okay. Okay, we're starting to look like something here. I wonder if I can add more of like a beaten path almost. You know? Of like the path that the cars drive. So you can kind of almost see a road through there. I like that. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and add back to that container stuff. Here we go. So I want to add some containers right here. And let's do some kind of oil storage, refinery, something. Something that's not too crazy, but believable. Okay, that's kind of cool. We got something going on there. Industrial storage. Trucks can back right up to these and, you know, do their thing. So now we just got to add the trucks, make it a little more believable. Where's our military vehicles? This would be along the back fence, or is it okay to put it over here? I think it's fine. Let's add it right there. Alright, now we've got Desert Tractor, Woodland, JTV. So this is where they also store their equipment for building out those sites. Park a Humvee or two. Make it look realistic. Alright, here's our transports and whatnot that probably brought in some of these containers. So we're going to go ahead and drop a couple of these guys. And we're going to defend this site as well. Oh, here you go, right with the crate still on it. I like it. A couple of those guys. Dump truck. Makes sense. Alright, we're starting to look like something. I think a few more little decorations throughout. I mean, I'm sure they're using crates and boxes at different locations, and we'll just kind of put some cones around this stuff. Make sure people aren't hitting it. We'll put a safety barrier over here. Secure area, right? Secure area. Crude oil stores, that thing's huge. Okay, guys. We're getting there, we're getting there. The story is unfolding. The story is unfolding. Crazy thing is, we haven't done a single city building portion of the game yet. Alright, so that's sort of where we're at for now. It's a military base. I do want to add some aviation stuff, as well as some boats. So we need to build... some kind of a marina where this was connected to, just so they could dock quickly and bring boats in. So we're going to drop some boats. Let's see what's out there. Coast Guard style boats. Ain't no pontoon harbor boats. Come on. Thought I had some military boats unlocked. I don't know where those are, but I'll leave these for now. Alright, boys and girls, so here's what we're gonna do. Before we keep extending this, we'll come back to this base a little bit just to revisit that in a second. I'm gonna create, like, I guess what I would imagine to be more or less row houses, or the way that I would imagine it having been. We'll create small homes, kind of like, not barracks, but you know, let's see what crops up at 3 wide. Let's see. I'm just gonna choose waterfront, and I'm gonna do marquee tools so that I could paint individually. I'm gonna see if this gives us anything. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. I mean, something is being built. I wonder if I do like single lines if we'll get anything. This is definitely not how I have ever played City Skylines. Oh man, they love the weather though, look at that, go figure. I would love the weather too, my man. I want to live in Florida. Now, I forget, somebody showed, I think it's part of the Anarchy mod, but they essentially were able to de-zone this area along like particular roads. I have no clue how to do that. So, I'm just gonna do... See what happens if we do that. If anything's gonna get built. In the meantime, we're gonna use the smallest water tower possible. Because again, when the military came in, they just put in the bare minimum. We'll put it right here. Part of the city tower. Visible to everybody. The area, put a foundation in. Alright. And of course, it's the government, so they didn't care. They're just dumping their poop in the river. So let's go ahead and dump some poop in the river, just straight out. Straight up. Alright, it's moving away over here. So we're literally just gonna go to the end and just dump it. Straight dump. We can learn how to make a connection. So the houses start off small. Everything starts small. We're gonna add some electricity. Let's see. They wanted to be self-sustainable, but they didn't have industry to build all that, so they did spend taxpayer money to run an electrical power grid from the nearest location. So we're just going to pick up off of that. They didn't have a chance to go underground either, so that's just going to be a direct connection. Let's build a transformer station. My game is glitching. Come on. Come on. Let's go. Alright, so we're doing this. Let's see. Let's go ahead and connect this. Is it connected underground? I think it is. And we'll just connect it to the road. That's done. Does that give us electricity? Yep, everybody's spoken for. Okay, let's see what these homes turn out like. Let's speed this up just a hair. Really? No power? No juices, huh? Okay, I guess we weren't connected. Do we have juice? What is going on here? This isn't connected. My bad. My bad. My bad. Alright guys, I gotta figure out how to like remove lights and stuff. I'll look it up. I'll look it up later. Okay, so nothing is growing in these areas where I've only put 2 or like a single row. So I'm gonna go ahead and double it up. Although I feel like something should grow there. There's literally no residential demand at all right now. That's just too funny. That's just too funny. So of course, as the few people moved in, there they go. As the people were living here in the old base, essentially what happened is when everything closed down, there was a few people that were like, hey, you know what? Kind of like in Lost, there's just leftovers, relics from the past, and some people stayed and lived there after everything was said and done to take care of the base, or just signed some kind of government contracts where they couldn't compete or do something different, so they just stayed on and got paid. So we're going to keep adding to that, but they did need some services. The government wasn't going to ship stuff in anymore, so they did need some business. They did need some stores and shops. So we're going to go ahead and add some of those. And not just shops, but they also needed to work somewhere. So we will add some industry over here. Oops, forgot I was using the marquee tool. Let's go ahead and put in a couple small businesses. I'm just doing them different varieties and shapes and not connected, just so we can have it look a little bit more realistic. And, you know, being an old military town, they didn't really care for stuff, but we're going to find the most old Soviet-looking park once they're available. Put something in there. I think that will make it more believable and realistic. But yeah, our little military town is starting to thrive. Slowly building things up. So some businesses grew here to support the people. They used their skills of whatever they were doing with gas and other things to open this up over here, Oilwood Company. A couple of them opened some shops, corner stores. Of course, they stay up in the military, so it's a shop-late location. Put this in the rest of the way. Some leftover junk piles where somebody did something in the past. And then since we were a military leftover town, and pretend like there was you know, some need for these on this stretch. Is missing on me. Hey, it looks cool at night. Let's add another package over here. We also sell some military surplus. So we're going to be selling some of these leftovers that we received from the military. There's going to be some gas tanks. People are supporting them. This is Bob's leftover project in the back. Project car that he was working on, never got around to fixing. Got a trash pile back here. Non-existent services. There's no trash service out here. So they scrap some metal and do whatever they can. And they also store some of their extra materials in the back for customers to purchase. Of course, they don't want any tanks hitting those, so we're just going to put some out there. Let's So we'll select those specifically, so whatever. It's good enough. Alright. I wanted to go ahead and add some military boats. And possibly a few other things. Let's see if they're in there. So, I wanted a harbor tugboat. Just because... why does it look like it's underwater? Come on, bruh. Bring it up a notch. So I wanted to add basically a tugboat because you do need those to bring the ships in and out. And then we're gonna add government patrol boats. Ah, there they are. Holy moly, that's huge. We're gonna park this sucker right here. Do a slightly smaller one. Just like that. There we go. That works. And then we're going to move these guys. There you go. That's more like it. And just to be on the right side of history, go ahead and add what I'm assuming is a guardhouse over here. Checks and balances and some safety cones. Oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, shake my head over here. There you go. Good enough. Wish there was also some like military styled items. And since it's near the boats, we're gonna do this. Alright guys, I think we're close. We're getting close. Let's sprinkle in a variety of palms. Whoops, not in the water, bro. What are we doing here? Guess I should turn off anarchy after that, huh? Oh my gosh. What did I do? Refunding me 25 bucks. Nice. Appreciate it. Give it a little bit of those Florida vibes. There we go. Now that's a scene. I like that. Looks great. Alright, we need a couple of military buildings, which, as this grows in, it'll feel a little bit more like a military town. I'm gonna try to add... we're gonna add a few more dirt roads. And we're going to... why don't they look like dirt roads? I don't know. But we're gonna try to add these like one at a time. Just to see if that will... as that starts growing... maybe we can get it to look more barrack-like. We'll speed it up to see what we get. So, more or less we can consider it as if these homes were abandoned by the military and people sort of moved in at the end of the day. So, lack of labor, definitely need more housing. And I know it's not necessarily military housing, right? They look different, but we're gonna call it that, you know, time has gone by after this was abandoned. Military ceased most of its operations. These are old assets, and the homes were sold to the people. So people were upgrading them. You know, there's a little bit of uniformity, but nothing too crazy. One of the things I also wanted to add was a little bit of these. I downloaded a Soviet pack just to give it that like old military look and feel. It's technically a active parking garage, but I wanted to give it a little bit of that, you know, old school, weird, old type of you know, military abandoned building look, if that's making sense to anyone. Alright, so we'll call it with that, and then we'll add a little bit more small homes as possible. We don't want anything crazy. Let's also see how the non-coastal, just the standard North American, is going to look. And again, we're using gravel roads because that's what the military left us in between each barrack. I have another theory. What if we were to build like one long one? Is there something there? Can that get us anything? Can that get us anything? Alright, we're a tiny village. The military did have some stuff left over for us here that we were able to use and grow our tiny town. They gave us water and a way to dump our poop and flush our poop, so the village is thriving. We're gonna do a few more things later on. This is a good stopping point for us right here for episode 1, but now we can add a few more things that the military left behind. They left behind a small medical clinic that was used for the soldiers initially. Small cemetery, you know, it's the military. People pass away in active combat and other situations. And there's going to be a landfill where they were dumping their toxic waste and garbage dumps. So we're going to have to add some barrels of sludge and waste over there. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and unlock one of these things. Probably an incinerator plant. I think we only have 1 point though, so we can't really do much. The crematorium sort of makes sense. Emergency battery. I like that. That falls into the story well. Emergency battery station. So reduces negative effects of buildings suffer when there is no electricity. And, you know, sometimes the power would go out when you're purchasing it from down the road due to a storm, and the military can't have that. They have to have their power backups. They must have power in order to maintain military supremacy. Alright guys, our little military town is reached its first milestone. So we are going to call this one